This is the thing about tarot, could be considered very dangerous. If you're reading for yourself or you're reading for somebody close to you and you see a predator and you see violence and you see physical trauma, if you know that person well, you're going to go into a spin out thinking, I know who that is. You have to be very, very careful and not know who it is, because you could be wrong. You're making an assumption, and that is very super fucking dangerous. With a total stranger, you can say it. Just say it. Your time sequences will come in here as well. We'll get along to as much of that as we possibly can. But the first thing is get that map down. Get your experiment down. Ask the permission of the person that you're working with, because you are training. Say, I am training in a masterclass with tarot and I need your permission to visually record. Just have your camera above the spread so that as you lay them out, you can forget that camera. You just need to be able to concentrate on what you're doing. People may remember the weirdest of things. Like I can remember throwing out a strength card for a person who wanted to know where they were going to live. I don't remember what else was around it. See, this one thing will pull my attention. There it is, that one card. When they've asked a specific question, that's the one I'm focusing on. I said, you're going to be moving somewhere that's got to do with lines and sand. They moved into Lion Street, Sandon. That's how tarot will work. It can actually give you names, dates, places, and times. Specific timings. Tarot will bring you, in the middle of the session, world events. If you're going to hear about them, they will turn up. If they're going to in some way affect your life or the life of the people close to you, these events will turn up. Can you go looking for world events? Sure. But then you probably know the person that you're asking the question with, and of course that's a little bit iffy. So you want to be able to work with strangers. If world events turn up, it can be like, what the fuck am I looking at here? What's a good example? Devil card, Five of Pentacles, World card, financial crash on a worldwide level. These are examples of how the devil card's nothing on its own. The more history you've got, the better, because the devil card comes up as looking like a religious card, doesn't it? You've got this strange, odd creature on the top of a plinth that's got horns and hairy legs and has one breast and no other breast, so it looks a little like an hermaphrodite. And it's got these two people on chains, just like in the Chariot card, just like in the High Priestess card with the two pillars. This pattern of Kabbalah is going to keep coming all the way through the Rider-Waite Tarot. Do you need to take notice of that? No, but with the Devil card, understand that those chains are loose. So a person can get out of them, can get out of what appears to be an entrapment. Okay? And the interesting thing, there's a whole story around the Devil card. The Devil card is supposedly Baphomet. Anybody heard of that? Baphomet is one of the reasons supposedly that the church set out to destroy the Knights Templar, because they brought back this demonic force from the Middle East from when they sacked Jerusalem, and they were supposedly this evil entity, even though the devil wasn't invented till the 1600s by the Catholic Church, by the way. It's just a really new phenomenon. In difference to hell, Zoroaster invented that. It's pretty disgusting. Rats chewing out a vagina forever. Things you find that in Joseph Campbell's Occidental Mythology, by the way. But the interesting part about this Baphomet figure that the Knights Templar supposedly brought back, that was the tarot card of the Devil card was based on, was actually a mistranslation of the word Muhammad. In certain historians have gone, oh, that's what he was. Okay, so they encountered Islam. It may have come from earlier philosophies and ideologies and understandings and education, but I mean the education was there as sort of like Alexandria. While you're looking up Alexandria, you can also look up Hypatia and come back at me with an answer for who she is. Do you know who Veronica Franco is? Do you know who Grunwali is? And do you know what Grunwali's anglicised name is? Anybody heard the name Plato?
Yeah, I've heard the name. But
Anybody heard the name Aristotle?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody heard the name Hitler?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Anybody heard the name Maud Gonne?
No.
No.
Why not?
He's
What? How
female
do you
and
spell
history
it?
only talks about men.
Isn't that funny? Who knows about Hypatia? Let me tell you a quick
I
story
do.
before we get back to the tarot. Hypatia was a professor at the University of Alexandria, and she would travel backwards and forwards to the university every morning and every afternoon on her little chariot. And she would go past this little group of monks who were just the first of the Christian monks outside of the temples of Alexandria. And these guys were like, this fucking woman coming back and forwards and considering herself a professor. We don't allow women to do that. Women are helpmeets. That's your job. Serve a man. Breed his children. So you know what they did? They stoned her to death with tiles. And then they went to the shores of the local waterway and they gathered oyster shells. And they came back with the oyster shells and they scraped all the meat off her bones. And then when they'd scraped all the meat off her bones, they burnt her bones and said, there, know your place, woman. And anybody who hasn't heard of Hypatia is looking down the wrong trackways of history. Maud
Can you
Gonne was a
spell
member of the
one?
Golden Dawn. She was also pretty much a queen of the theatre, and she was one of the heads of the IRA, the original IRA. Granwali. I live up in Byron Bay for years, and as I'm going to Bangalore regularly, I'm going along a street called Granwali Street. I'll leave it to you to find out. That can be a little bit of work for the week. It's a fabulous story, by the way. So, past, present and future, cards are laid out in 3 packs. You've had a look at the present, you've triangulated, you're trying to look for your landmarks. What are the ones that really stand out? What are the ones that could be dangerous? What are the ones that sort of in some way message you strongly? Why is there a 7 of Cups there instead of an Ace of Cups? The minute you've laid out that first card, all you're after is more information. Yes.
And is that, like, for me, with no education yet of what each card means, is that them talking to you?
You do have to learn what each card means.
Sweet.
78, and every single one has more than one meaning depending on what it falls with.
Yeah.
The Dark Night of the Soul, when if they turn up, Devil, Death and Tower, they're like, whoa. What it is life saying, if you can't balance this quest between one cliff top and another cliff top, any one of these is going to claim you. And then it's called going back to the drawing board, because it's called ring pass not. It said if you can't get through this by balancing your life out in connection with the subtleties. And who's the perfect example? Nelson Mandela. What did he do? Was it 27 years he did in prison? So Nelson Mandela has worked out how to stay alive in a South African prison without going mad. And then Nelson Mandela gets released from that and becomes the head of the ANCU. So what's kept Nelson Mandela sane through that? His medicine. And his medicine is whatever techniques he's developed to balance himself on that tightrope to get from point A to point Z. What foods go with what to keep your in optimum health, for example. This is your medicine. And so we mean it like that. But then at the same time, the Temperance card in itself can come through and have mean medicine. It can represent medicine. If the Temperance card, for example, turns up with the 7 of Cups, it's some kind of like, whoa, really, really, really intense hydro.
I've got it sitting at the top of the pack.
As you can see, with the actual Rider-Waite, they've got 1 foot in the water, 1 foot on the land. They've got 1 cup and they're putting water from 1 cup to the other. What they attempt to do is to balance everything out. You'll find similarities between the Temperance card. You'll find similarities between a lot of these pictograms. Mainly that focus of 2. And that focus of 2 pillars, 2 mountains, 2 hands is this triangulation of 3 things. You've got 1, then you've got 2, the minute you've got a 3rd thing, you've got life. So it's again Neshama coming into effect. Too much information? You going mad yet? We all right?
Mad Max, bro.
But what tarot, what the actual, even the artist Pamela Coleman Smith, when she's created this particular pack, she's done this artwork based on the wisdom that she's been taught through Arthur Edward Waite and the dudes that she worked with through the Golden Dawn. And this connection with Kabbalah, it's very subtle, but it's always there. Okay. So you've laid out those cards, and then you've laid out the 3 to the side, so you've laid out 13. And then what you're going to do with the so-called future is do exactly the same thing, building on your first card. And everything just goes from there. And through the whole reading, you actually don't forget anything. I never do a reading on a day when a person says, can you do me a reading today? I go, no. I might have nothing on for the whole day. But something has to happen, and no, you don't put that in a box. I'm not going to put that in a cage and tell you this is what happened or that's what happens, but something happens. And again, the interaction between all 3 of you, that's what's going to be, there's a swirling. There's a world being created. You're doing the most extraordinary phenomenon of partially collapsing the wave of that person's destiny, if that person knows their own destiny. Yes, it's as extraordinary as it sounds. So even when you lay the next series of cards over the top in the Dead Reckoning spread of the next one from the future pack, and the one on top of that, and the one above it, and the one below it, to the left, to the right, 4 up the side, and 3 in a fan shape, what you're going to be doing is just adding on to that. But you'll remember something from that first map, and it'll have relativity to the second map. Now, when the past, tarot is the big dude standing behind me going, now I'm going to bring this up, and you're going to just have a look at this. It may have nothing to do with that person. Tarot will philosophize deeply. It'll bring up all kinds of ideas, all kind of world events that may mirror something yet to come. Okay, so there's your first lot of maps. The first lot of maps that you're going to work with during the week, apart from your other homework, is the Dead Reckoning. Look up what Dead Reckoning means so that you've got an idea of nautical terms, because I will use nautical terms throughout this, because this is all journeyman stuff. This is all taking the journey, taking the sea routes, knowing the precipices, understanding. But you see, this is where the terms right and wrong and good and bad have to fucking go, because the landscape doesn't. You go, oh, that's a good mountain. That mountain's right. And Mother Mountain knows exactly who she is. There's ways where we've been trapped by the different usurping hegemonies, yes. And that's one religion imposing right and wrong, imposing yes and no, imposing should over everything that is flowing and growing and being beautiful. And yes, there needs to be pattern boundaries. Boundaries are great things. Boundaries are fine.